I actually have a lot of people say that they listen to our podcast to fall asleep, which is weird. And
I mean, it's great. I mean,
it's because of our voices.
We are either very safe or incredibly boring. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Remind podcast. My name's David Marston, and I'm joined by Dr. Ashleigh Moreland. It's over there, not back there, not there. And following on from last week's episode where we talked about rest, relaxation, rejuvenation, all of that, we are talking about sleep hygiene. I probably need to take some notes myself. So over to you, Ash. We're going to go through a little bit of the do's and don'ts. Now, this is not an exhaustive list because as if you haven't seen last week's episode, but this really intrigues you, then you need to go back and look at that one because getting into a fully rested state to sleep is really important. But normal sleep hygiene, these are some of the known blocks that we're going to help you get rid of. And FYI, just because I know the blocks doesn't necessarily mean I don't hit them most nights.
Yeah, 100%. Totally agree. So last week we spoke about the difference between rest and relaxation. And one of the things I was saying is how I got a new Garmin watch for Christmas and I've been deep diving into all of the sleep analytics. And it's so fascinating for me. So I've got my phone here and I've got the Garmin app open so that I can kind of tell you how it rates your sleep. So it rates the sleep score factors. One is duration. The next is stress. The next is deep sleep, light sleep, and REM sleep. And then awake and restlessness. So it'll measure how many restless moments you've had where you've kind of just sort of tossed and turned or been awake or whatever. And it measures using a whole heap of different sensors. So the thing that I love the most about this watch is it measures heart rate variability. And heart rate variability is a really, really important measure in kind of understanding the balance between your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. So the higher the heart rate variability, the better. And interestingly, my heart rate variability was quite low. So that was really interesting.
So that's good, right? Or is it bad?
No, that's bad.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yep. So if I look at my sleep score factors, duration, it says here that adults should aim for 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. And obviously, everyone's individual needs will vary based on a whole heap of factors. Age, lifestyle, even genetics will play a role in your ideal amount of sleep. But the reason that that's actually so important is because your total sleep time is necessary for us to complete full cycles of sleep stages. So if we shortchange our overall sleep duration, it disrupts those sleep stages and therefore we miss out on the benefits of each of the types of sleep. So something that I find really interesting, I want to also make clear that sleep is by no means my expertise. It's not I don't claim to be the expert in sleep science or anything like that. But this has just been, I guess, some of my learning in this that I'm sharing with you. So if there's anything that I say that you don't agree with, I would love to hear from you. If you have other resources that suggest otherwise, totally want to hear from you. But I'm just going to share based on my experience and kind of what I've been learning about. So in terms of the sleep stages, we've got light sleep, deep sleep, and REM sleep. Light sleep is more like that bridge between being awake and into the deep sleep. So when we go into light sleep, our brain activity slows down, our heart rate slows down, our body temperature drops. But really, that's preparing us for the deeper stages of sleep. And I read something about this. Let me go back into here. So light sleep, it talked about that your brain is processing memories and facts during light sleep. And it actually made me curious about, I wonder if because I'm such a like intellectual person, if I just have so many, like so much information and memories and facts that my brain just doesn't get out of that process because it's got to stay there for so long. I have nothing to back that up other than curiosity.
This is what came to my mind as you said that. We've all shut down a computer at some stage in our life, right? And it has, and it says shutting down with the circle just spinning, right? As it's processing. I'm thinking that's sort of light sleep. And I can see you as a computer taking just a little bit longer to go to sleep.
Yeah.
Just packing all the stuff away, processing before you can do the full shutdown.
Yes. I honestly think that that's legit. So it says that an inadequate amount means that essentially your brain hasn't had enough time to process memories and to process facts. And so that's really important in memory consolidation, which I remember being at uni and people saying, whatever you do, don't cram for your exams because the sleep is actually way more important in being able to recall the information that you're studying the next day. And I was always like, watch me. I will
Hold
cram and I will
Red
get a
Bull.
HD. But it also, this one was really interesting, which kind of makes sense. But if light sleep accounts for too much of your total sleep, you wake up feeling groggy and fatigued. And yes, you may also have difficulty concentrating, remembering information because your body and brain weren't able to fully restore themselves by cycling through the other stages. And so I think that makes a whole lot more sense. But I would be really curious whether whether my sleep patterns change when my kids are not in our house. So when our kids go to their dads, because we've been in school holidays, they've been with us every day. But when our kids go to their dads, I'm really curious to see whether my light sleep, whether I have less light sleep and have more of that deeper sleep, because I feel like there is like this instinctive parental 100%. Awareness of just wanting to be aware of what's happening around us.
Just noises.
Exactly. Yep. And it's like totally. And also our kids are using our bathroom at the moment while we're doing bathroom renovations. I say at the moment, it's been like a year, but they're using our ensuite.
Eventually.
And so it's almost like I'm listening for the little footsteps in the middle of the night, and I'm always immediately I wake up. I'm like, "Are you okay, darling?" Whereas my husband usually sleeps through it. So I thought that was really, really interesting. And then the next one is deep sleep. So deep sleep is known as stage 3 or slow wave sleep. It's when you're sleeping most soundly. So deep sleep is important for boosting immune function, repairing muscles and tissues, and increasing energy reserves for tomorrow. Problems with low deep sleep is that, nope. Okay. Not super helpful.
Okay.
What I was just reading.
We've hit some technical difficulties.
Low deep sleep, sign that you're not getting enough total sleep, well, obviously. But the factors that contribute to not getting enough deep sleep is things like alcohol consumption and tobacco use, and also being unfit as well is a really big issue. So that is when in our deep sleep, one thing I do know about deep sleep is that's where a lot of our brain waste products are metabolized. So that reduces the risk of our neurodegenerative diseases. If we are getting enough deep sleep, then there's a little bit of controversy around this at the moment, but it used to be believed that it was when it would clear these things called beta amyloid plaques. And now, much like the cholesterol thing, where they basically were like, well, yeah, cholesterol is obviously always at the site because it's like the firefighter putting out the fire. Now, this research has come a full circle. The last thing that I read about beta amyloid plaques is that actually they're a good thing and that they're helping in the healing of that tissue. But regardless, deep sleep is where we clear out the brain waste products. So I know that that's really, really important. I am, for me personally, stuck in more light sleep and I'm not getting enough of that deep sleep.
Gotcha.
The REM sleep is where our brain activity actually increases. So REM is the rapid eye movement, and that's when we dream. So in most people in REM sleep, our body is paralyzed so that we don't actually act out the dreams. But that's where we do all of our creative thinking and problem solving and process emotions and memory consolidation. I'm no dream interpreter expert, but usually our dreams are an indicator, like they're pointing towards something that is an unprocessed emotion or is something that we're navigating in our real world.
Some sort of significance, yeah.
There usually is. And that's because our mind doesn't operate in logic and sequence and reasoning. Our mind is associative. And so we might have a dream that is almost like representative or what's the word? An analogy almost of something that's happening in our real life. It's pretty rare that we dream exactly the details and exactly how they're happening.
Oh, yeah.
There's some interpretation there.
And when I've looked up what dreams mean, and again, it hasn't been exhaustive, but normally what you're dreaming is not the actual message.
No.
It's sort of like it's a representation of something significant, but it's a bit of a riddle.
Yes.
Not that it's meant to be a riddle, but it's sort of like, as you sort of said, is that it's an interpretation of something. And one of the ones that I've heard and I found quite fascinating is that if you dream of someone dying, it's not necessarily that they're going to be dying. It's a representation of you believe there's a rebirth for them coming.
Yeah.
So again, it's sort of like it's significant because it's that person and something of them is dying. It's not the complete death.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not an expert in it and it hasn't been fully into it. But like if you're having sort of, we'll say nightmares or not pleasant dreams or things where you wake up and you go, oh, or if you think of things like in my dream, I did this. I'm not capable of doing this in real life. What the hell's going on?
Yeah.
There's some significance. It doesn't mean that if you're doing things in your dream you wouldn't normally do and it's a negative, it doesn't mean that that's you. It just means that there's something significant about what is attached to that.
Exactly. And probably every person on the face of the earth has ever had this experience where they have dreamt that their partner cheated on them and then wanted to stab them in real life when you wake up in the morning. It was just a dream. They didn't really do it. And they don't know why you're so angry at them.
Well, so you're just talking from experience.
I have definitely had that experience.
Hide all the chopsticks.
Yes. So when it comes to, okay, so this is like a little bit of the background of sleep, right? So the consequences of not enough sleep for me are really obvious. Short term, I am snappy, irritable.
Yeah.
I feel heavy and lethargic and fatigued. I have
No
brain
capacity.
fog. I can't focus. A really interesting one is impaired reaction time. So we're slower. Literally our brain processes information slower. So we're at increased risk of accidents, a whole heap of issues. Reduced immune response is another really, really big one. If we are not getting enough sleep, particularly that deep sleep, then our immune system becomes compromised. And I remember I researched this a lot during COVID, that there were certain gates that just being exposed to a virus doesn't necessarily mean we get sick, because we have something like 7 or 8 gates that virus has to pass through before we finally succumb to it and end up ill, right? And one of those really critical factors is being able to have enough restful sleep that our immune system is operating at, it's kind of like, imagine having a prison but at 10% capacity of guards. Probably not going to be super effective, right? So improving our immune system is a really, really important part of getting enough sleep. But longer term, like not getting enough sleep on a more consistent basis is going to affect our mental health. Like higher risk of anxiety, higher risk of depression, higher risk of almost every diagnosable mental illness, as well as, like I spoke before about, increased risk of things like Alzheimer's and stuff like that, because your brain can't actually do its cleanup process overnight. But also physical health. So there's a higher risk of heart disease, higher risk of diabetes, higher risk of obesity. I spoke about the immune system. So you're more likely to just have colds and flus and stuff like that. We age more. It affects our skin because we don't produce as much collagen. If we kind of take that even further in understanding how not having enough sleep is affecting us relationally, we become disengaged. I spoke about being snappy. We're in a literal survival response. And there's some really interesting research called the ACEs studies, adverse childhood experiences. If we experience various traumas in our early life and our nervous system is in that state of sympathetic activation, then our sleep quality is going to be reduced. And if our sleep quality is reduced, which is where our immune system is restored and replenished, it's when our brain processes and cleans up all the mess, then potentially the long-term impact on sleep from those early life experiences and trauma is a really big contributor to early death. So life expectancy for people who have experienced high levels of adverse childhood experiences is over 20 years less.
Wow.
As well as higher incidence of all of these physical health conditions as well.
I mean, it's just a really good idea just to try and get as much sleep as you can. Yeah.
Get some good sleep, yeah.
Well, yeah.
So one of the most important things, like all of this, I guess, background information is hopefully letting you guys reach the conclusion that doing better with our sleep hygiene is a good idea. Like, let's take care of our sleep hygiene. And so what does that look like? Well, I'll put a link in the show notes where you can download a sleep checklist, which is just a freebie that we created for a client once who was having a lot of problems sleeping. And it's really basic stuff, right? Like, we've split it into, well, let's look at your environment. Is your bedroom dark and quiet and cool, which are the conditions that we know support sleep and reaching those deeper levels of sleep? Because if it's dark, quiet and cool, we're not restless. Is your bedroom clean, clear of clutter? Because
actually, can we just go back to what you just first said, right?
Yes.
I have a question. Now, dark, cool and quiet, for me, 100%. What about those who need to sleep with noise? What about those who need to sleep with something on?
I think that's fine. It's just whatever they're programmed to. My husband likes rain noises. I always slept in a quiet room. It makes no difference to me. I just got used to the rain noises. But now rain noises or no rain noises, I'm okay. But I think sometimes we can just get programmed and it becomes white noise in the background. Have you ever stayed at a friend's place who lives near an airport or lives near a train line? And you're like, oh my gosh, this would drive me crazy. How does anyone ever get any sleep?
You just get used to it.
But they're used to it.
Yep.
It's because for them, it's consistent, familiar sounds. And so if it's consistent, familiar sounds, their brain kind of just tunes it out as white noise. So that's a really good point. I like that question. There's a whole bunch of other stuff around your environment. Like, is your mattress comfortable or are you sleeping on sharp springs?
Oh my God, how often do we do it? Like, I remember thinking about this ages ago, right? In the past, I'd spend more on my TV than I would my mattress.
Yep.
Because it's sort of like, I'm asleep, who cares? Where, you're focused on a TV, right? You can show it off. No one really shows off a mattress, right? But holy moly, when I started switching that up, because how much time should you be spending on your mattress? You should be spending at least 7-8 hours a night, right? Times that every day over the years that you're alive, like, that's a long time. So, yeah, you need to have, this thing, and people sort of go, I'll replace it next year. Yeah. Oh God, I feel a bit stiff, but they get used to it.
Yeah.
Oh, such a big one.
And
Where
same with pillows. Pillows. Yeah. Oh my gosh. This is something that I totally agree with you, Dave. One of the first bigger investments I made in terms of spending an irrational amount of money for something relative to my income was a mattress, a really good mattress. And I do not regret it, not for a second. Yeah. So because, you might stay in a nice hotel and go, oh my gosh, this is the best bed ever. I had the best sleep last night. Why wouldn't you create that in your home so you can have an amazing sleep every night?
Because you go home and then you realise that mattress is $5,000 and you go, no way.
So for me, I am absolutely a mattress and a bedding snob. Totally. I admit that. Love it.
Yeah.
I would rather spend good money on that than many other things that people would rather spend money on. But next stuff. So we've got a whole section on health and lifestyle. So understanding diet, nutrition, exercise, checking with your doctor to see if you have like hormone imbalances or
just like a general routine blood
sleep
check.
Apnea. Yeah,
just exactly. Do the gambit. Yeah.
Another really interesting one is food intolerances. Gut damage can be caused from lots of different things, medications, stress, viruses, all kinds of things. And it is really common for chemicals from our food or our environment to cross the blood-brain barrier and cause that brain inflammation that we spoke about around kids' behaviour a few episodes ago. If people are consistently wired or struggling with sleep, then hormone or chemical issues from gut damage can be a really, really important thing to consider. Obviously, resolving past trauma. PTSD is sleep is usually really affected if we have a history of chronic stress or PTSD.
Again, if you don't feel safe, how are you supposed to rest properly?
Yeah. Exactly. So there's a whole heap of things in that. And then routine, right? We cannot underestimate. Remember, certainty equals safety to the nervous system. So having something that is predictable, having a consistent sleep-wake time, having a consistent bedtime routine, anything that we can do to create certainty and consistency around our sleep is going to help our nervous system to be able to drop into that state of rest a lot faster. A really big one is around fast dopamine. So if you join our Heart-Centered Healing Hub group, you will see in there in our, pinned featured posts, a whole series of instructions for a 7-day dopamine detox. The biggest response that people have to that is improved sleep.
Nice.
So that's really encouraging. A 7-day dopamine detox is going to help you to eliminate the fast dopamine and get more of that slow dopamine, which will support melatonin release and reduce your cortisol. So that's really important. And then just some strategies to try. So things like there is an app called the Smiling Mind app, which is my favorite, but there are so many apps around that can help you just to spend a few minutes to be present and calm in your nervous system. Breathing techniques, mindfulness, journaling, all that sort of stuff. So we'll pop a link to that free resource in the show notes, but comment and let us know how you feel your sleep is going. And honestly, this is something that I look at and go, it's free. This is something that we can improve for free. It's going to increase our life expectancy. It's going to increase our quality of life, improve our relationships, improve our concentration and our focus and every aspect of our life, even before we go and spend big money on like all these things and the courses and the programs and the stuff. Just sort this out. Just sort this one thing out. Improve your sleep. You would be surprised how many people I will have a consultation with who are experiencing massive anxiety. It's crippling. They're totally impacting their life. But when we ask the basic questions around eating, sleeping, exercising, they're not supporting their nervous system or emotional or mental health at all. So take care of some of these basics and the other stuff will absolutely get better, because we can help with the other stuff. But if you're helping with the other stuff but still having 9 hours of social media time every day and sleeping for 3 hours a night and drinking 7 coffees, then there's only so much we can do to regulate your nervous system.
Yeah, well, I mean, but going back, there's a reason why. So when you are brave enough and patient enough to go back as to why you're doing all of that, that's the key. So awesome episode.
Totally.
For those that are still
Very
awake.
practical.
Yeah. Congratulations for getting to the end of the episode. For those that are asleep, good night, sweet dreams, and we'll see you next week.
See you guys.